Starliner Media. Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell. Brought to you by...
When Signs and Displays Direct was launched 15 years ago, it featured a complete line of banners and stands, product displays, and more. Today, the company is known as SDD and is the industry leader in turnkey, no-inventory POP programs. SDD has expanded into branding programs for both corporate and private label, as well as consulting services for retail showroom design and more. Visit sdd-us.com. That's sdd-us.com. All right, it's time once again for Music Night at the Majestic, and with us tonight, Mandy Barnett. Mandy, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'll tell you, you have an album that actually debuts tomorrow, Every Star Above. And fortunately, I was able to listen to it before it was released, and I got to tell you, it's a really, really impressive album.
Well, I appreciate that. It's an album that I've always wanted to make. To be able to record those songs, of course, by such an icon as Billie Holiday. Those songs were all personally picked out by Billie. And, of course, we're showcasing or paying tribute to her 1958 album, Lady in Satin. And Sammy Nestico, legendary arranger, just wonderful, wonderful musician, did all the arrangements. And I'm just so very pleased with the outcome.
Yeah, now, the album itself, Lady in Satin, has an interesting backstory for you personally. Tell us, how you came to listen to that album.
Well, when I was around 23 years old, I'd made the album with Owen Bradley, and I worked with the Bradleys and the A-Team, and had done the record, I've Got a Right to Cry, and I was touring with Harold Bradley. And he was always exposing me to music that he thought I should be aware of. And so one day he handed me that album, Lady in Satin. He said, you should listen to this, because I think as time goes on and you have a few more life experiences, you'll want to record some of these type songs, maybe with an orchestra. And so I fell in love with the album, fell in love with Billie's phrasing, and just thought it was just the most gorgeous thing I'd ever heard. And so when that opportunity fell into my lap, working with Fred Mullen to do the album to do those particular songs with Sammy Nestico and then legendary engineer Bill Schnee, I just jumped on the chance to do that.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing that I like about it, and this goes through everything that you do, you'll take material that people know, a lot of times from legendary, vocalists, and you can hear the influence, but when you hear it, it's not you trying to do, in this case, a Billie Holiday album. Right. It is you singing these songs your way. Right.
Well, there's definitely an influence there, but like I said, I'm not Billie Holiday, not trying to sing like her. We weren't trying to reproduce anything other than singing those songs, doing those songs, going into the studio with an orchestra. Those really are the only two parallels.
Yeah, because we say what I liked is the fact that you didn't.
Same age. We're about the same age, but that's pretty much where it stops. But it was just such an important album. And it was a very important album to her, because she had always kind of done the swing thing and just all out swing. And so she wanted to croon and make a really beautiful, beautiful record. And it's an album that people still talk about and people still love. So we wanted to pay tribute to that. And like I said, working with Sammy Nestico was just a dream come true.
Yeah, I would think. Now you're mentioning Sammy. One of the things that really stands out to me listening to it is the arrangements.
Yes.
They are so full of character, and they're lush when they need to be lush, but they're powerful when they need to be powerful, and it goes exactly where you would want it to go.
Yeah. He was 95 years old when he did that, and he recently passed away. So this is the last album he worked on, but there's just decades of experience. And these songs were from his day. So he had um his own relationship with those songs, and probably had written some of those songs for other artists at one time or another, or or did them live with an artist. He started out with the Dorsey band, and was Count Basie's arranger for many years. So the experience and the passion and the love that he brought to the table and the inspiration that he gave to me was just something else. Unbelievable.
Well, again, what I like is the fact that while it is, or they are, the same songs from Lady in Satin,
Hmm.
you didn't approach it, and neither did Sammy, from a let's do a cover version or just a tribute version of it. You don't do the songs in the same order. The songs are a little bit different, on them to make them uniquely yours,
Right.
with it. Now, back when Owen first gave you a copy of Lady in Satin,
It was
what
Harold.
were some of the songs that popped out and really grabbed you on your initial listen?
I always loved For All We Know, and You've Changed, and I'm a Fool to Want You. Those were my top three. Um, and of course, The End of the Love Affair is just devastatingly beautiful. Owen and Harold both loved the standards, the Great American Songbook, and we connected over those songs, even more so than country music. It was a given. They had played on and produced some of the greatest country acts of all time, like Loretta Lynn and Patsy Cline and Brenda Lee. But they were frustrated jazz musicians themselves. Um, so that was a great way to bond. And even Owen at one point had said, let's let's do this country record, and then at some point let's go in and do an album of Gershwin and Cole Porter and Irving Berlin. That would be great. And we got really excited about that.
Yeah, I would think. Now, on your album, on Every Star Above, what are the tracks that you find yourself kind of gravitating to the most?
Hmm. Um, it's it's difficult because I really just I love all the songs, but I really love But Beautiful, and I Get Along Without You Very Well, are two of my favorites. Glad to Be Unhappy is another one that's just a beautiful song. But Sammy's arrangements were so inspiring. Um, I don't think that he ever listened to the Lady in Satin album. I think he just started writing. So he was able to bring something completely different. So I approached all the songs differently because of the framework he gave me. Um, so I would say those are my top three.
Well, in my listening to it, I think this goes with anybody. The first time you listen to an album, there are certain songs that you gravitate to,
Hmm.
and then the more you listen to it, the more you kind of go, you know what? Actually, this other song, like "You Don't Know What Love Is" the one that jumped at me
Yeah,
initially on this.
yeah.
Uh,
Because it
yeah,
goes
it
with that full swing, that big band swing, and has sort of elements of kind of a James Bond kind of vibe. He was so creative. It was just, I did not expect that to happen. That wasn't discussed early on. Um, so when I got the arrangements, he sent like mock-ups of the arrangements for me to rehearse, maybe 2 or 3 months before. So I spent a lot of time getting to know the ins and outs, where to enter through the verses and where the instrumentals were. So it was a great surprise to get to when he sent them, and I finally got to hear them for the first time. Now, it wasn't with a real orchestra; it was through symphonic instruments, but you could get an idea. And then, of course, when I went into the studio and heard the real thing with a 60-piece orchestra, it was really just wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the James Bond feel to it because that was what my impression on that one as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Another track that jumped out at me is "I'm a Fool to Want You."
Beautiful song. Frank Sinatra is one of the writers of that song, and I always heard, I don't know if this is true, that he wrote the song based on um, his kind of crazy, toxic relationship with Ava Gardner. So that's always been kind of intriguing to me, and just a gorgeous song. And Billie, gosh, she's that, like I said, when I first heard Lady in Satin, that is one of the songs that really just jumped out at me. So I hope I was able to do it justice. I know the arrangement that Sammy wrote is just amazing.
Absolutely. Now, do you have any plans to do a tour, to promote the album?
Well, with the pandemic, it's hard to tell what's going to happen. Um, this is the kind of record that you don't have to really worry about releasing a single and, whether or not it's going to, fly in the next 6 months. So this is an album that really can live forever. So I would say plans to tour, yeah, at some point. I don't know when. It might not be this year. And I'm sure a lot of the symphonies across the country are still trying to figure out their game plan and how they're going to come back. But I think doing an evening of all these wonderful songs that so many people still love with these great arrangements would be just be a lot of fun for me, and I think audiences would enjoy hearing them.
Absolutely. Now, from a vocalist standpoint, do you use a different approach to these songs as opposed to, say, the songs that you did on "I've Got a Right to Cry"?
Yeah, I mean it is a different approach because I mean I'm Southern, see, and you still hear that. I'm not trying to completely hide it with the way I say certain words. Sammy always said, he said, "I think the country and Western helped you." Um, so he liked my country background and what I was able to bring to the table just through singing country music for years. It is a different approach. It's a different type of melody, but I think the main thing, whether it's country music or whether it's the Great American Songbook, there's songs that I can relate to. There's songs that I can feel very deeply, and so it's just a matter of kind of tapping into that place inside of you where you're able to convey that emotion. That's really the similar thing, and really in any genre you're trying to sing, if you can come from an authentic place.
Absolutely. Now, with your voice, you have a wonderful balance of a textured sound, but yet very smooth.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that makes you so distinct on it. Whether you're singing an old Brenda Lee song or whether you're singing a Billie Holiday song.
Yeah, I don't, I guess it's just from, I don't know, maybe wear and tear. I don't know. I've put my voice through a lot. Um, but yeah, it's back when I was really young, I was singing 27 songs a night, doing always Patsy Cline. So I guess just through the years, it just develops different textures. I mean, I can definitely hear the difference when I was young. To me, I sound like a pipsqueak, but compared to now,
Character.
yes, the years definitely add character. Experiences add character, and I'm glad for all of it. I just keep
Well,
trying to get better, and so hopefully I am.
yeah, I was going to say now, given the backstory for you with the album,
Hmm.
that first day in the studio when you started to record the songs that were so important and influential on you, what was going through your mind when you started into recording?
I mean, it was just really unbelievable. I mean, anytime you stand in front of an orchestra, it's overwhelming, and it is intimidating. Now, I have done a few pops concerts before, and I've sung with a couple of orchestras, but it's not something that I do on a regular basis. So every time you do it, it kind of takes your breath away. And then all of us being crammed into Ocean Way, I think just the combination of knowing that Sammy Nestico is depending on me to sing everything the way he had it written, and doing it live on the floor, which is basically how we had to do it, because there are many places in that album where the rhythm section completely falls out, and so I have to, it's up to me to keep going. So I had a lot of pressure on me, but I made sure that I was prepared, like I said, a good 2 or 3 months before, so that I could enjoy the experience, as opposed to just standing there being completely intimidated and unsure of where to come in and that kind of thing. I can't think of anything more frightening than that. So, and because I've worked with so many of these old school musicians, they've kind of taught me that being prepared really is the way to go. So I was those couple of days were really, really great, because I was able to relax and just sing and really get into the arrangements and the music.
Yeah. Now, what did you, at this point? I mean, obviously it'll change over time, but looking back at those sessions and putting together this whole album and getting to work with Sammy and everything, what is your fondest memory of putting this album together?
Well, you know, really there wasn't a whole lot of preparation. It was basically, we told Sammy what songs we were going to do. I sent him some loose guidelines of me singing some of the songs with the keys. Told him to take liberties wherever he wanted to. Um, every now and then he would check in to see if I could sing, if he was going to modulate at a certain place. Could I could I hit the high note or not before he put it in there. So there were some of those things, like going back and forth, but really it was basically just learning the arrangements once he sent them, and then those 2 days in the studio. Those 2 days in the studio, it was kind of bam, that's the record. And the great Sammy wasn't able to come to Nashville because of his health, but he was able to watch on Zoom, and all the orchestra, they gave him a standing ovation. Everyone was so thrilled to be there and to get to play those arrangements by such a just a legendary musician with so much history. We were all giddy. We were all happy to be there. But one of the greatest moments, I think, of the making of the album and after the album was going out to Carlsbad and spending an afternoon with Sammy and his wife Shirley. So I spent the afternoon with them. He was absolutely a delight. The sweetest person ever. He's everything you would want him to be. And we had the best afternoon. And that's something that I will cherish for the rest of my life.
That's wonderful. And yeah, as you mentioned, you've had the opportunity to work with some absolutely legendary people. So that's got to be so satisfying.
It really is. And, I've never bought into the whole, at a certain, no matter how old you are, I don't think that means that you should retire. I mean, here this man is at 95 years old, writing some of the most beautiful arrangements ever. Probably, I'm sure, just as good as when he was 30 years old, or maybe even better because of all the experience. Um, I'm so glad that it gave him some purpose toward the end of his life and something to be excited about. Um, so we both got a lot out of it, and I'm just so proud for that. Um, it gave him a sense of purpose at a time in his life when he was a little bit sick, and not feeling well. But in that 2 or 3 month period that he was doing this, he was young again, and I think that's great.
Absolutely. Well, tell you what, Mandy, I know you have other commitments, so we'll wrap this edition of our show up. Again, everybody, Every Star Above debuts tomorrow, so make sure you get it. So I've listened to it many times already.
Thank you.
It's just one of the best things I've heard in a good while. So.
Well, I appreciate it, and thanks so much for having me on your show. I'm sorry my dog was acting out, but
this show seems to attract people's dogs because, I would say probably every third episode, the guest dog makes a cameo.
Well, I could put him upstairs in the bedroom, but he would raise Cain, and that would just the show. So it's better to just let him go.
Exactly. All right, everybody. We'll tell you what, on that note, we're going to wrap this edition of Music Night at the Majestic up. Again, go to mandybarnett.com. You can get all things Mandy there, all the details on the new album. You can get a copy of the album. I highly suggest you do. Mandy, thank you for taking the time to join us.
Thank you. You have a good week.
You too. Okay. Good night, everybody.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media.